Hello all, I'm Dr. Sarika Zaware, Head Computer Engineering Department, AISSMS Institute of Information Technology, Pune. In this video, I'm going to explain the software requirement specification, that is SRS, of e-voting software system. So I'm considering here the e-voting software as a case study to represent this particular SRS. In my previous video, I have explained detail about SRS, what is the format of SRS, and in each and every subhead, which parameter is expected to have in SRS. So in view of that theoretical thing, now I'm just showing you the demo case study of e-voting software and how it will be look like, so that in the similar line for any project or any mini project, whatever we are developing, we can write the SRS of the same. So I will click on this link. So if you can see this e-voting software, the project ID is given. So in the first page, in my previous video, in the format first page, it has mentioned the name, then who is the developer, developer details, and developer team names are also to be mentioned over there, version number and all. Now next part is the introduction part. That is nothing but in introduction, the complete introduction of this document, not directly to the system. So this document, so if you can see here, the purpose of this document is to make the functional requirement of a software engineering project on the e-voting system easy to comprehend. It also serves the purpose of making the functionality clear for the end users. Okay. And then document convention. So in this document, if you are considering this electronic e-voting system, so here EA is mentioned. That is nothing but, suppose they have given short form as an election authority. Then system, generally we call it as the system. So what exactly system means? It means a software system. It is not a computer system. That is to be specified over here. Then again, in somewhere we are going to mention here the election instance. So what is the meaning of this election instance? Well, then most probably we are talking about admin. So what do you mean by admin in particular system? So that we have to specify, means all the short forms or conventions, whatever we are using in our project, that is to be highlighted initially. Then only, because that are not the standards, these are the forms as per our system we have created. So third party or third user can't going to understand this thing, what is the meaning of EA, what is the meaning of admin NA, something like this, right? So that's why this convention is to be mentioned over here. Then who will be the audience for this particular system? So potential end user. The document may also serve as a reference guide to the developer. As I have mentioned in my previous video, intended audience will be the admin, intended audience will be the voter, and along with that, this document, the development team or design team is going to refer this document, because this is the input for them. So based by going through this SRS document, they are going to design about the system. Then once design part is over, developer are going to, what we can say, implement that, and while implementing that, they are going to consider the design as well as this SRS document. Then the contact information of the persons, those who are the owner of this thing that we have mentioned. Then in first chapter, the last point was the references. So here, if you can see, IEEE standard description. So they have referred, because this is the standard format provided by the IEEE. That's why we have to mention. Then now here case study is like based on the voting system. So we must have that's before designing that software, we must have a basic knowledge of what sort of this system is and how it is going to work on, right? So that's why for writing that document also we can mention over here. Again, for writing some use cases, so what they have written, they have used that, they have mentioned over here. So likewise, references we can include. So meaning of these references is that either to write this document what you refer, and along with that, to write this particular system, what else knowledge there may be possible. We are developing any what we can say software which is related to the security, crime analysis or something like this. So at that time we need to put the references of some legal documents also. Okay. Now moving to the next chapter, that is overall description. Now from second chapter to last chapter, we have to think about the particular project. So overall description, that is project perspective. The just I'm reading this, the software project is standalone system and not a part of a large system. The system will be made up of two parts. So meaning is that ki overall wo system kya hai, in that view they are going to discuss about this particular system made of two parts, one running visible directly to the administrator and one is directly to the user. Then next part is the product functionality. What sort of a functionality this product is going to provide? That functionalities are mentioned over here. Then classes and characteristics. So user classes means what? Who will be the user of this system? So election officer, election administrator, and voter. These two are the users, if you can see this system. Then what will be the environment, operating environment? So as it is a software project, what we want here, so Java's packages we need to have on the server side. Then election server run on HTTP server, JSP enabled browser through which the voter access the server should have minimal support for cookies and encrypted and transaction, because security is the major concern as if we are considering this particular application. Okay. Then design and implementation constraints. So what are the constraints? Means limitations. So even though the system enable voter to poll their vote from any terminal connected to the internet, the voter should initially contact the election administration office to authenticate themselves and establish their user IDs. Yeah, this is required. Otherwise, any user through any login can do this. That's why this is the constraint. Because first of all, the user must get authenticated from the administrator. So this is one of the constraint. Anybody can't do like this, right? Then assumptions and dependencies. So what will be the assumptions here or guidelines? Personal computer or workstation with GUI, then web browser with support of cookies. So some specific web browser we need. So at that time that user or that voter has that particular browser on his machine or on his device. Then working internet connection and all these things. Then external interfaces. So what sort of external interfaces are required and what sort of graphical user interfaces this particular system will going to provide? So welcome screen for administrator. So administrator will do all these things, create the voter database, add the database and represent that database, even delete, modify as per the documentation provided by the voter. Finally creating the election instance, means on that particular day from timing 8 to 5 something. So that instance is also created by the election officer. And then finally the voter modify the candidate list and all this he can do, and deletion of the instance, modify the election time he can do, and last the voting on the voter's end. This is only one user screen that voter will get just for the login, and then after voting is submitted, that screen will be out and he don't have any right to do anything. Automatically he will be logged out. So along with this, what sort of hardware is required? If you are seeing this particular, considering this project here, not at all any soft hardware is involved. So then software interfaces, then communication protocol interfaces. So what sort of communication? Because security is a major concern. Then internet availability of internet is the major concern. So what sort of a protocols we are going to use, that is to be mentioned over here, because this is the requirement of this project. It may not applicable to all sort of a projects. Then non-functional requirements, safety, security, project demonstration, then user documentation, just like a manual that is provided to the user. So in this way, the overall SRS related to any system can be written. So what happened because of this, whatever the requirements which we have gathered in requirement engineering, that get more and more clearly putted on the document. And because only understanding the requirement is not sufficient, because where to stop for that requirement, that is the important parameter. Otherwise we can go in more and more and detail of that requirement, and that might become a separate project. So it should not be happen in that way. So that's why SRS is the standard format to represent the system, so that in future this project, this particular document will be useful for customer as well as designer as well as developer. Or in other words, we can say that all the stakeholders of that particular project can make use of this SRS. Thank you. Thank you for watching my video.